Question. I have read about turning the other cheek, not retaliating to others, being non-violent and so on. Buddha did it and so did Jesus. Does it mean that if a person and or their loved ones, or those they care for, is physically attacked by others, they should not retaliate? Extending this further, we know there is a certain religion on earth that cannot coexist peacefully with others. What if people on this religion attack the people of other faiths? Should the latter not defend themselves and fight back? If they don't, they will be wiped out. If the answer is one should not fight back, then my question would be, is the other person or community's life not precious? For how long can one turn the other cheek? Well, for how long can one turn the other cheek? What did Jesus say? Forgive 70 times 7. So maybe that's a place to start if you want to put numbers on it. But anyway, this is obviously a very, very deep and profound question. So I'm not trying to be simplistic about it. But okay, if you take just the teachings of Jesus that are in the New Testament, it can be very difficult to understand this. For the simple reason that Christianity, official Christianity, doesn't recognize reincarnation. If you understand and accept reincarnation, then you have a deeper level of understanding for this. So you have to again, you have to acknowledge that I've said before, and I'll talk more about this at some point. I'll do a series of videos on Christianity. But you have to acknowledge that Christianity has misinterpreted and disinterpreted the teachings of Jesus. So we have a very rudimentary understanding of this concept of turning the other cheek. I know the concept doesn't just come from Christianity. But if you take the teachings of Jesus, I have said before that he was meant to be an example that all of us can raise our consciousness. And if you look at Jesus' life, right, he ascended after this lifetime. And as I explained in several videos, including my video about how the world was created, we all have a potential to ascend from earth, meaning we don't have to come back into embodiment on earth. And if you are in your last embodiment, where you want to ascend, then your primary concern is to overcome all patterns, all what we often call karma, from past lives that you have with other people. And if this is your primary concern, you have to turn the other cheek, and you have to keep turning the other cheek, because the teaching behind this, Jesus saying this, was if you fight back, you reinforce the karmic spiral you have with these people, and therefore you have to come back into embodiment, often with the same people, fighting them again. So if you really want to break that spiral, you have to turn the other cheek. It's the only way. Let them attack you, turn the other cheek, let them attack you, turn the other cheek, let them attack you again, turn the third cheek. There's always another cheek to turn, if you really want to be free of earth. And it doesn't just apply if you want to ascend after this lifetime, it also applies if you want to raise your consciousness so you don't encounter these kind of people anymore. There's even a deeper importance of it, is that when somebody attacks you and you turn the other cheek, how to say it? I've said in several videos that the universe is like the cosmic mirror. It can only reflect back to us what we are projecting out. So here is a person who's attacking you. What is that person projecting into the cosmic mirror? On the surface level, it might be that my religion is only 2-1 and you are not in my religion, therefore I have a right to attack you. But that's not what's really being projected out. What this person is projecting is, I want to fight somebody. So they are attacking you. Why? Because they want you to fight back. But if you don't want to send, if you attack back, what message are you sending into the cosmic mirror? I want to fight somebody. So if you don't want to be in this spiral of always fighting somebody, if you want to break that spiral, there's only one way. You have to send a different signal into the cosmic mirror. Namely, I don't want to fight somebody. And then either these people will go away from you and you will find yourself in a different situation, or at least in your next lifetime, you will be in a better situation where you don't have to fight people. But I have personally experienced that when you overcome something in your psychology in relation to other people, you don't encounter those people anymore. I just in another video I was talking about how when I was new on the spiritual path, I had this sense that people in spiritual movements shouldn't be abusing power, and therefore I felt I had to speak out about people who abuse power. And I came to see that I had a subconscious self that made me speak out in an unbalanced manner. And when I overcame that, I stopped encountering those kind of people. I didn't attract them to me. So this is the deeper meaning behind this. There's even a deeper layer where there's a concept I talked about before about the judgment of Christ. And that is that Jesus, for example, he was in a higher state of consciousness. He allowed himself to be crucified. He didn't fight back. And thereby, by attacking him with the level of consciousness he had, they brought about the judgment of Christ upon themselves, the judgment of the Christ mind, which is the mind of oneness. And that means now, you see here, there's a person who's attacking you. He's making karma by attacking you. But if you attack back, you're also making karma. And in a sense, by you attacking back, the karma isn't as severe for the other person. Because it's like I said, you're both sending the signal you want to fight somebody. And you look at it this way. If you're walking down the street and you punch somebody in the face, you're going to be put in jail. But if you're in a boxing ring wearing these silly gloves and you punch somebody in the face, people are going to cheer. Right? So in other words, when two people agree to put on gloves and go in a boxing ring, they don't get arrested for punching each other in the face. Because the karma isn't as severe. You now have a sort of an unconscious mutual agreement there. So again, if you want to break the karmic spiral, you need to stop fighting back. But the other thing is, if somebody attacks you and you turn the other cheek, they get the full karmic return of what they're doing. Because it's not mitigated by you fighting back. So that's another layer of the judgment of Christ. So I understand that when all of this is said and done, there's still a big question left. That is self-defense. If somebody is trying to kill me or my family, do I not have a right to defend myself? But that depends on your level of consciousness. You see, Jesus didn't defend himself. He allowed himself to be tortured and killed because of bringing the judgment of Christ. But for people who are at a lower level of consciousness, they do have a right to defend themselves without retaliating. In other words, you do what is needed strictly to defend yourself and your family. You don't say afterwards, I'm going to go after them and destroy their family. You don't seek revenge, because then you are making even more karma. So in other words, there are situations where you can see somebody, they are, because this is what life is on planet Earth. Somebody can attack you physically. So there are situations where it's legitimate to defend yourself, but only in a defensive way, not in an attacking or seeking revenge way. Then you won't encounter karma for it. But still, you need to look at, is there something in my consciousness that I'm projecting into the cosmic mirror that I want to be attacked, that I want to be in opposition to other people, that I want to prove other people wrong? Because as I said again, if you raise your consciousness to a certain level, you're not as likely to be attacked by other people. I understand the questioner is saying there's a certain religion on earth that cannot coexist peacefully with others. I'm assuming this is Islam. I don't know. And so I understand that there are countries in the world where people who are not Muslims are being attacked by Muslims. Just like there were countries where people were being attacked by Christians, for example. So I understand this. But on a deeper level, you need to ask yourself still, why did I embody in this country? Could it be that I still have some remnants, some subconscious selves that are projecting that I want to be in opposition to other people? You see, I have talked about these levels of consciousness, 144 possible levels of consciousness. And I've said that below the 48th level, we go into separation. The illusion that we are separate beings. And we do this by using the duality consciousness, where there's always two opposite polarities. So this is what polarizes people into this reaction. Islam is the only true religion. Christianity is the only true religion. Therefore, there's opposition between them. And this is a level of experience that people can have. And as I've explained, with free will, people are allowed to have this experience on a planet like Earth because it's a non-natural planet. So people are allowed to be in separation, and they are subconsciously saying, I want to be opposed by other people, because that's what you do in duality. You want to prove that you are right compared to others who are wrong. And therefore, two groups of people have the same attitude, so they have a subconscious agreement. It's like going into the boxing ring and putting on gloves. You punch me, I punch you, and we just keep going back and forth until we're tired of it. And it's like, again, how do you get out of this once you're in it? By turning the other cheek. You have to come. This is why every religion on earth has this: do unto others, or don't do unto others. Because you have to look at yourself and say, if I don't want what other people are doing to me, I have to make sure that I'm not doing something similar to others without recognizing it. And I have to make sure that I'm not in my own mind actually wanting to oppose people. You see, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but you take a puppy, right? So you have a little rope, and you kind of wiggle it in front of the puppy, and it grabs onto it. And now you can watch the reaction of the puppy. As long as you're pulling on the rope, the puppy is happy. It's pulling you back. It's pulling back. But if you let go of the rope, it gets bored in 5 seconds and doesn't want to do it anymore. It just stops pulling. Because the puppy wants the opposite pull. It wants to have something to struggle against. And people below the 48th level consciousness, it's exactly the same. They want to have something to struggle against. Because they're not ready to define themselves as connected beings who don't have to have an opposition to define who they are. See, when you are in separation, you are defining yourself in opposition to other people. So if there's no opposition, you don't know who you are. Right? Arabs, they don't know who they are if they're not fighting against somebody. Many Arabs, many Muslims, many Christians, the same thing. Many Jews, the same thing. Look at the Jews. Thousands of years of history. Always feeling they were opposed by other people. What signal are you sending into the cosmic mirror? So, it's again this, do you want to go beyond this struggling with other people? Or do you want to experience more of it? Do you want to reinforce it or transcend it? Now, I'll comment on a specific case here. Ukraine being attacked by Russia, invaded by Russia. No special military operation here. Outright invasion, war, or conquest. Did they not have a right to defend themselves? We know that if they hadn't defended themselves, they would have been taken over by Russia, and millions of Ukrainians would have been forcefully taken to re-education camps in Russia. They had plans for this. Ukrainian society would have become like the dictatorial state that Russia is today. No freedom of speech, no human rights, no nothing. We know this. So did they not have a right to defend themselves? Well, yes, they did. But they did this because Ukraine is not at a level of consciousness as some other countries. If Ukraine had been in a higher state of consciousness, it might have been the right course of action to not defend themselves, as for example Tibet with China. So I'm not trying to say here that there's a universal way to say, oh, you should always do this or you should always do that. The Ukrainians were at a certain level of consciousness, which is why they didn't become a member of NATO or the EU, where they still hadn't let go of the past, just like the Russians haven't let go of the past. So because of this, they are sort of matched. They're sort of not. Ukraine was still defining itself in relation to Russia rather than in relation to Western Europe. And therefore, they are still in such a similar state of consciousness as the Russians that they have a subconscious agreement, you might say, of struggling against somebody. And in a sense, what's happening right now is that Ukraine is breaking free of the Soviet past and saying there's a consciousness emerging. We want to define ourselves in a higher way as a democratic modern country. Russia has the potential to do the same, and it may happen as a result of this war that they'll be forced to do it, but so far you don't see a lot of signs of it. So what I'm trying to say is that you look at the world and you look at many of these conflicts that are happening, including in the Middle East right now. Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, there's a subconscious agreement. We want to struggle against somebody because none of us are mature enough to define ourselves without having someone to struggle against, someone opposing us. And that's what you see happening all over the world on a personal level, between groups of people, families, criminal gangs. You see it between nations. You see it between religions, political ideologies. I mean, what was the Cold War? It was this boxing match between capitalism and communism. All of these dualistic struggles. So the question simply is, turning the other cheek. Do you want to continue in the dualistic struggle, or do you want to transcend the dualistic struggle?